Okay. Welcome everyone to the AI Agent Morale meetup. It's a meetup for people curious about AI and for all topic around the demystification of AI. Today it's the last event of 2025. So we will see how we can refactor legacy code safely with AI plus TDD. And we have the amazing opportunity to have Michael Larson with us. And we will see how Michael refactor legacy code safely. He will share with us his journey. And thank you, Michael. Just for the organization, the topic, the event is recorded, and I will share it on our YouTube channel at the end. So feel free to see it again if you want. So, Michael, the place is yours.
Okay. I guess I'll just start with a brief introduction of myself. I have been a software engineer for, oh no. Well, okay, I've been writing code since I was in middle school, but professionally I've been doing it since 2006. So
6.
that'll give me almost 19 years. So yeah, 19 years of me being a software engineer. Currently, though, I am a software engineering manager for GEICO Insurance and in the commercial insurance organization. So um, we manage the portal that people go to sell when you want to go and buy commercial insurance, like if you have trucks or vehicles that a business uses, you'd go there and get a quote, or your independent agent would do that. But
And
anyway,
you're in the United States, right?
yes,
Yeah.
uh I'm near Los Angeles, California. That's
Okay.
where I'm at. And so this is something I love, test-driven development. I'm a test-driven development um follower, promoter, so forth. And one of the things that I wanted to bring out is for most of us, 90% of what we do is we're always reading code. We're trying to understand code. We're trying to take this very old system that we have inherited from others, and we're just trying to add one little feature in this sea of code just so we can solve a problem, whether that's fixing a bug or adding a new feature that's going to enable something for our customer or what have you. We're just trying to modify this code that we have inherited or code that we even forgot that we wrote, 10, 15 years ago. We might have written the code ourselves, and now we've completely forgotten because we haven't seen it in a long time. It happens.
Yes,
So
just for TDD, I'm really excited to see how we will code safely with TDD and AI because we are here to spread best practices. And I will have a question for you about TDDs and the TDD cycle with the AI because it's a test first, in the test-driven development. And I'm interested to see your point of view about this change of paradigm, with AI.
yes, and I have done a lot of experimentation with that
Yeah.
myself. So that I mean, for a high level, right? We want the goal is, and actually, I posted about this on LinkedIn because I saw someone else who's a proponent of this in the tech space, and the idea that he promoted was when we use AI to write code, right? We can generate code. We could you can use AI to generate thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code very easily. Like one prompt, I can have thousands of classes and thousands of lines of code, and I can commit it all. But at the end of the day, as software engineers, our responsibility is to know, does that code even work? Is it going to solve the problem that we're trying to solve? So at the end of the day, it's not about we're generating code, we're trying to make changes safely and verify that those changes will actually work. And so that's kind of what my gist of what I'm trying to present to all of you today is that we can use test-driven development with AI to do that. And a lot of people, right? TDD historically has been very hard for someone to follow because it takes a lot of discipline to follow it. Some people don't like writing unit tests, right? Some people find it challenging. How do you write good unit tests? It's a skill in and of itself. Um, some people want to code. They don't want to write the test. They just want to write the code and see it working. So there's a lot of things that fight against that. And there's also the fact that we have time pressure and, sometimes at work you don't have the time to learn TDD. You don't have the time to really practice it with all the other life commitments that you have and so forth. So here, what we're talking about too is using AI to help us, one, to understand the code that we're looking at. So if we're jumping into a code base we've never seen before, we don't know what it does. Maybe you start a new job or you're dropped in the middle of this large code base and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Um, Maybe like the people on your team are busy because they have fires that they're trying to put out and they can't really give you the time that you need to explain to you all of the things that are going on. So here what we're trying to say is how can we use AI practically to help you in those kind of situations? Understand the code, and then once you understand it, how to make changes safely in that code and know that that code is going to work. I'm not going to go too much into test-driven development, but we have our basics, which is we go from red, green, refactor, and we always start with a failing unit test, then we make it pass, then we refactor things. When you're dealing with legacy code, sometimes we're just refactoring. We're not even making changes, and in that case, we always want our tests to be green. We never want to be in a state where our tests are not green or we're broken. Um, so one of the things that um, I'm going to jump down to context engineering. So I like to call it context engineering. I'm pretty sure other people have used this term, so I'm not the first person to come up with this topic. But one of the things that I found using AI is we have to really constrain the AI. There's a large language model. It has access to a lot of data, a lot of information. So our goal is to keep things very concise, give it specific instructions so it stays on task and it doesn't go and try to do something we don't want it to do. So that's an important thing. We also don't want to lose key things that we might want to remember. So we have to have a system. How do we keep track of all of the things that we've discovered, but at the same time, we don't overload the context window? One of the things that I have found using AI in like coding and refactoring and all these things, the biggest thing is as you're going along in your chat session, the longer you go, it actually starts, it's kind of weird. It's almost as if it's forgetting things. Now, it's not really forgetting things, but it's the way it works, it makes it seem to you as a human it is forgetting things. What it does is, as the context window gets larger and larger and larger and larger, what happens, it has to condense down the context so it can keep space so you can actually keep working. And so what will happen is some instruction that you gave it early on in the chat history has now been condensed and summarized so much that a lot of the detail and the instructions that you gave it are gone because it has summarized and condensed it down. The other problem that'll happen is if you're loading too much of the code base into your context window, it's almost, I'm not going to say it's like a human mind, but the analogy I like to say is like can get overwhelmed. We can get, if we try to put too many things in our mind at once. In a way, managing your context window, yes, you can have these large context windows and shove everything in there, but you can confuse, like, again, we want to focus the AI on a specific problem. We don't want it solving everything. At any one given time, we only have one problem to solve, not a million problems to solve. Okay. I'm gonna.
I assume that all people know the context window, but if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask a question
Yeah.
the
Yes.
in the chat. And what happens is that when you consume all the context window, we consume more tokens.
Yes. And like GitHub Copilot, for example, has a thing where to optimize, it will start to summarize and condense down your context window. Now you could turn that off and it'll help, but I find that if we manage the context actively, if you're actively managing it, you'll get better results than if you just try to have this long chat history build up and build up and build up. Okay. So what do I do? I guess when I go before, there's some groundwork that I do even before I touch any code, before I use AI, before I do anything. What do we do? So a lot of these coding tools, I use GitHub Copilot, but other people like Cursor, some like Claude Code, what Gemini, whatever coding tool, AI coding tool that you want to use, there's basic principles that apply to all of them, which is first, we have, like in GitHub Copilot, I have my instructions file. Now, um, there is an effort in the industry to, um, go for, let me just close all these things so I can do this a little bit easier. Um, this will make it a little bit easier so you can see. So a lot of the industry is there. I think a lot of them are trying to coalesce around agents.md file, but essentially this is what it is. It's like your master, your system prompt for your AI agent. So my go-to thing is before I do any work in a repo, I create this agents file or this instructions file to tell my agent what I want it to do. What are some of the maybe you have coding standards that you want to follow, or maybe you have patterns that you want the AI to use, or maybe, as in my case, I wanted to use test-driven development. So this is one that I've used, like I've modified this over time, but this is one that I use. There's ones that, I mean, Kent Beck has a good example of this when he uses Claude Code. And the idea here is you're explaining to the AI what test-driven development is and how you want it to run. Because if you don't put this in here, it will make assumptions. It will do things like go and write 20 tests at one time. You might not want that to happen. I am a test-driven development person. I want one test at a time. I don't want it going and writing 100 tests. I want it to write one test at a time so I can see what it's doing.
And just Michael, just the .md file for TDD and your coding style, for example,
uh,
it is part of the spec-driven development, or it's completely different? It's just to add some constraints on your AI agent, or
yeah, yes. The like agents.md file, like that's one thing that everyone's trying to standardize with. It's a systems prompt for your AI coding tool. It's like not really a systems prompt, but it adds it to like before your prompt, before you say like you give it in instructions. This is the superset of instructions that will inject into your chat context to tell it this is what I want you to do, or this is like the rules that you must follow um, to do here. And one thing I'll do too is like when it starts making mistakes or things that I don't want it to do, I will update this file. I will tell it, update your instructions file, and please do not do this again, or please do this, or please don't do that. I follow that a lot.
It's to have a relevant answer from the AI agent. Yeah.
Yes, and it's really the only way that you can teach, like quote, teach an AI because the LLM is already trained and it can't really learn unless you retrain it. And so this is a way to kind of fake that or simulate it how it's learning is you would add to this. You can't get rid of them, but you can kind of, if you notice things, like I'll give an example, like a lot of times I've seen when I use like Copilot, it'll try to fix formatting issues. Like if I have like I use like if you use style cop with .NET or whatever linter that you're using, for your language, every language has the same kind of thing. It'll try to fix all of those errors manually, which is very time consuming. When all you have to do, most modern languages have a lint command that will fix most of that stuff for you with one command. And you don't have to mess with any of that. So I told it, don't try to fix those things. Like the first thing you should do is run the linter first before you try to fix the coding style problems. Don't try to manually fix all of them because if you run that command, it will fix most of them and you won't have to do anything. So that's like one thing.
And Samaritan in the chat say that iterating so that hallucinations are not as frequent yet.
Yes. And so this is just my instructions file that I've written. And some of the things that I like to do when I write a unit test. And this is just different things that I added over time to my instructions file based on the problems that I was seeing from my agent when I was using it. And I added extras. These are all things that I noticed that I was doing that I didn't want it to do anymore. So I told it, here's my um, coding standards that I want, or code formatting. How do I want it to format things? Um, when I do like code review, what do I want it to look at? Patterns, refactoring discipline, um, anti-patterns, uh, like all of these things. Like I add this over time.
And
Um,
your advice for our attendees is to build this file from scratch or to start from an existing one.
um, what I did is I just gave the prompt to the AI and I said, I want to create an instructions file, and these are the basic things that I want you to do. And he gave me a pretty good one. But then as I went along, I modified it. I would add to it constantly. I would keep adding and adding. And and people have agent files and instruction files out there that you can copy from. Even Copilot has a thing where you can say, um, like if you, I think if you go here, I think one of these things you can have it add because I already have one. If you don't have one, it'll have a prompt already, like a pre cast prompt that will make one for you. It'll even go through your code and analyze your code, look at the patterns, and then put those patterns into your instructions file for you. So you don't. I wouldn't handwrite this. I would let the AI do it, and then I would edit it and like modify it as I see fit, especially as you go along. I did not write all of this by hand. I prompted the AI to do this. And it put all these code examples in here, these beautiful code examples. It put
Right.
so that's one thing. The other thing that I started to do, like I've experimented with various different things with this, is you could create like prompt files, like Copilot lets you do this. I actually built a tool that kind of did this too. The thing is, it's just like instead of having to repeat yourself over and over and over again, what are some common prompts that you're going to have that you can share with your team that you can put in here so that everyone can have that prompt and you can check it into your repo and then you can reference it when you want to um, you know do something. And it's just a way to like find that. Now tools like RuCode also kind of do the same thing. They have like personas where you can have like an architect, you can have a coder, you can have like a tester, you can have a planner, and then you can even in those modes you can select like different models that you want each persona to use. Um, there's even more advanced tools like I've seen Claude Flow where you can launch like whole agent swarms and like do all kinds of advanced things. But the point of it is that we're at the end of the day, it's just these prompts that we're you know using English language to try to explain to the LLM what we were trying to do. Um,
And to have a better file, it's always better to provide some example or
yeah, well, like you'll get better results. Like an example I will give you. Like let's say you want the AI to generate JSON, right? You'll get higher accuracy if you give it an example. Like, and then there's like sometimes they call it like one shot or you could do few shot examples of what exactly you're looking for, and it'll let the LLM or the agent to understand, okay, this is what you want, and this is how you want me to output it to you. And then there's like even tools like Azure Semantic Kernel that also do a similar thing. The same thing. It's just prompting the LLM to is saying, I want you to format your response in this, like with this format. Here's an example. Go do it, and you get better accuracy that way than if you just tell it to go write something and then it might give you the right thing that you're looking for, or it might make an assumption that and go a completely different direction that you do not want. Um, Another thing that I do too to counteract that is I tell it always tell me what assumptions you are making. And when there is something unclear, don't make an assumption, ask me. So if there's anything unclear about what I'm asking you to do, don't make an assumption and try to do it. Ask me to clear that up. And that also helps um, when I add that in there. And then you can add that in your agents file or your Copilot instructions file. You can also tell it to do that as well, not to make
okay,
assumptions. Uh,
to specify explicitly. Yeah.
yeah. And let's see, what do I have? Okay, so to make an effective demo, I took a code kata, refactoring code kata. Um, it's the Yahtzee code refactoring code kata. Um, So I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with Yahtzee. Um, if not, that's okay. You don't need to know, but it's just a game of dice and where you have like, five dice and you can roll different numbers and it's almost like a hand and then you have to score it. So this code is scoring a bunch of dice. Um, and it has a bunch of rules in here on how it does it, and it's very complicated. This code kata has two examples of the same code, like it does the same thing, but it has different problems. Um, and it has different code smells in there. And usually most people, when they're practicing refactoring, they'll do this by hand. But I decided, hey, wouldn't it be fun to do it with AI instead?
Yeah. It's an opportunity to discover also
Uh,
kata.
yeah. So that's kind of like what I did. I tried this out on my team at work, and it kind of worked, and it worked. It surprisingly worked very well to demonstrate the concept, to help them to understand, okay, this is how we can use it to refactor code. Um, So I guess the first thing is like we just want to understand what this code does first, because we might not really understand what is it doing, right? So I can say,
Yeah, it's your legacy code. Yeah.
and then I just say, Yahtzee one and
At this step, do you use some custom command or just the basic command on
I have
flow?
a prompt file I'm using. Actually, what I want to do. I'm using this thing.
Okay.
And I'm just having it, give me first just an explanation of what it does. I'm not trying to get it to do any coding right now. I don't want it to tell me anything. And it's gonna think, and then it's gonna go, and it's gonna tell me what it does.
And by default, you use your instruction file. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So right now it's just telling me what it does, and it says gives me some but it's telling me what the key difference is between the two. And spoil, like I've already read this, I'm not going to read the whole thing. But sometimes too, like you'll notice that this thing produces so much text. And so,
So the first step is to understand the legacy code thanks to the AI. Yeah, right.
yes. And I'm just asking it to like verify my understanding of the code. Like I'm just asking it questions. Um, and I'm going to say, you know what, this is too much. Can you
You are asked to be more concise. Yeah.
Yeah, because it'll spew out code like text like crazy. Um, yes, see, there it goes. It answered my question, just gave me a direct answer instead of it saying all of that other stuff. Like it could just say, yes, they both implement the same scoring rules. Okay. And then I'm going to say, well, looking at both implementations, which one is easier to refactor? I misspelled that, but I meant to say implementation. And then it tells me, okay, Yahtzee 2 is easier to refactor. Okay, so then I'll say, well, what are some code smells in Yahtzee? And then what I'm gonna do,
And it knows the smell, or do you have some an
I
MCP connected, to have
oh
the.
I forgot to put this in my prompt file. I'll show you really quick. Um, I mean, technically, it already has all that stuff in its like in its training data set, but we can reference it to kind of give it a hint. For I like to use this site to help me explain codes well. And that's one I do like to use.
Okay.
Uh, and then it's gonna go there.
Yes, it's a public link. So
Okay. And it'll say like a God long or God methods, switch statements on enum parsers, primitive obsession, um, duplicate logic, magic numbers, hard-coded scores, missing input validation, inconsistent unnecessary types, and then this is a minimal suggested there. And then, one thing I will do too, I will say, hey, can you update your instructions file? Or actually, can you uh can we create a prompt file that um we can use to analyze code smells in a class or other piece of code. So that this is like an example of I found something that might be useful to me, and I don't want to keep remembering to put that URL all the time and do all of this. And now I can create the prompt file, and then later on, I don't have to remember all of that. I can it'll save it and do it later.
yeah, it's not a temporary file. Yeah, you commit the file.
Yes.
Okay.
And then here, look, and it says, you see this, like, you see that, and anyway, I'm not going to go onto that right now, but I'm going to say keep and then accept that. Okay, and then now I'm going to say, okay, let's save this into our memory log so we don't lose the analysis you did.
And it's for me because LLM is not deterministic. Do you generate sometimes several times this kind of prompt, or just the first time it will be always okay?
I've actually done this exercise. This is not the first time I've done it. And actually, it's going kind of similar to the first time I did it. So, um, what I like to do is not the same LLM. Sometimes I like to do is different models ask the same
Okay.
question. So
Okay.
like Copilot, like if I wanted to, I could just like select different models and then ask the same question again and then get a different response. And then I could save all those responses and then have another model curate all of the responses and do that. I'm not going to demonstrate that today because that's like, then we'd be spending 2 hours
Yeah,
doing,
okay.
um, but you can do that. And people are building tools to do that. But
You
right
can
now,
do
we don't
that
have,
and
yeah.
keep the best answer. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you could always do that. The other thing that people are doing now is you can launch, like if you think about these agent swarms, right? We're now at the point where let's say you want to test some idea, right? You can launch a whole bunch of different agents, give it an instruction, even give it slightly different variations of the same instruction, or even tell it use a different model to go do it, and then you can have them all go and do it. You can either have them do it on your computer using like a Git work tree, um, or you can have it do it inside of like GitHub has I forgot what it's called, but it has an agent there running in the background where you can give it tasks and it will complete them independently. There's various different similar concepts out there. You could do this in a Docker container if you wanted to spin up a Docker container. The whole point is you can have work if you use Git work trees. It works very nicely if you use that because then you can have separate isolated environments for each of your agents, and they can all be running on your computer. Or you can use a Docker container and launch your code into a Docker container and then have the agent complete a task and then submit a PR to your brand, to your repository, and then you could decide if you're going to take it or not. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that people are doing these things, and I mean, it's still like there's a lot of change and flux going on right now with all of those things, but most of the time, the only limiting factor there is money because it burns tokens. So, uh, how many tokens do you want to burn, and how much money do you have to spend?
Yeah.
uh, you you if you have unlimited budget, you can have 20 different implementations of the same code. You can if you want to. Okay, I'm going off topic there. But anyway, and then I created like a log file. Like I put this in my agent's instructions file, and I like to do this because it lets me um, save different things. But it didn't do what I wanted to do. I wanted. And so I'm just telling it to come up with a plan and put it in my little memory file here.
You follow the plan. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it's going to say, first it's going to add a parity test. It's going to do validation. Um, because like I guess you could do that. You could say a parity test because like what if we were having two different implementations of the same code and we were in like a legacy code base and we wanted to create like a new implementation and we're going to switch between the two with like a feature flag. You want to make sure that the original and the new version still do the same things. and you can actually like tell the AI to go and write tests that will compare like with the same input to both classes, will it produce the same result?
So
You,
it's characterization test, no? Okay.
yes,
Yeah,
like
okay.
a characterization test, exactly. So then you can have those characterization tests, and then you don't have to write all that code yourself. um, okay, so now what I do is I just create a different thing. Okay, so since it's already like loaded into my context, I don't have to do anything. I said I would like. I am paranoid. I always tell it to, I remind it to follow your instructions because I have problems with AI, like staying focused and remembering. So I try to make sure that I tell it, like, please follow the instructions.
You forgot quickly.
Um, you know, I just, I am paranoid with that, with AI coding agents. I've been burned many times before with that. uh, I think, like, yeah, because sometimes it'll try to do advanced things that don't work, and it's like just call .NET Test. Like you don't need to be doing all these things. Oh yeah, I forgot I have to fix something with it. No. Okay. I forgot that. Oh, I know this because I did this before and I forgot. I have the code on a different machine, and it's because the test runner isn't set up right, and I just have to fix that. So, like, I already, as a hint, because I've done this before, I already know I have to do this part to make it work. Uh, so it's going to go and try to fix it. Say allow.
So you update the test configuration of the project, yeah, right?
Why are you doing here? Oh, yeah. Okay. Allow. It's just fixing the test project, yes. There you go. There you go. See, it worked. That's why, because I knew from before when I did it, that's why it was not working. And it's thinking right now and doing things. So while it's thinking, does anyone have questions for me while we're waiting for this to finish its thinking?
If you have some question, don't hesitate to ask on the chat. No, I think. And could just could you tell us what is the difference between ask question in the prompt like this and when you use GitHub Copilot online when, for example, you are affected the task for the AI agent, you can um, fix some issue directly on the task online,
Yeah.
or it's
Yeah,
different.
like online, like what it'll do is like it essentially spinning up a container with your dev environment, so whatever language you're using, it'll spin up a container, it'll sync the code down, and then it will launch like a Copilot in there in a terminal, headless terminal, and it streams the content back to GitHub so you can see what it's doing. And it's just like a prompt that you send to it. Now, there is a way that you can send communication to that agent through GitHub's UI and like give it like clarifications or ask it to do more things. Like you can do that while and then it'll actually open up a branch and it'll create a PR for
Yeah.
you. And then it'll start working. And then when it's done, it'll have an updated pull request with all the changes that is made, and then you can review it, and then you can give it in the pull request, you can give it little feedback and tell it go fix these things.
Okay.
Or
In the pull request. Okay.
yeah, or you can pull the code down, that branch down, and then do it locally. Um, but there's like a lot of different coding tools that are doing the same type of thing where you can do it. And then imagine that, like the cool thing that's happening now is now we can now do like coding on our phones. I mean, you could do that before, but now it's like much easier. Now you can work totally on your phone because if it's all connected to the cloud, you don't even need a laptop anymore, and you're just telling the AI, okay, here's what I want you to do. Here's all the tasks I'm giving you for like maybe you have to step out of the office for a couple hours, or maybe you're going on your commute, or you're just going to bed and you're just like, hey, I'm going to go and like launch a bunch of agents off and have them do some stuff for me while I'm gone. And when I come back, I can see what they did. And then I can like decide whether or not I want it or not, or toss it away, or accept the PRs and merge them into my code base, and then and do that. Like you can do that if you want.
Yeah, and now it's able to create a GitHub action also.
Yes. So now it did create my
Just
area
we have
test.
a question from David in the chat. So you mentioned something about managing the context window. Is that the same as referencing your context file in your prompts?
I would say yes, but it's more than that. Is more than that because the problem that I've seen a lot with these AI agents is that as you like if you keep one chat open, um, as you keep doing more and more and more things, you're shoving more information into this chat. Um, and you're so then as your context window gets larger and larger, one thing, right? You're starting to condense that thing down. Two, it has a lot of information in that chat that might not even be relevant to the tasks that you're doing right now, that you don't even want the AI to be referencing, and it might start getting confused. And it starts um like adding extra stuff that you don't want, or it'll start doing strange things that you're like, why is it doing this? And why is it trying to like follow these instructions? Like maybe you gave it an instruction earlier in the chat and now you want it to do something else, and now So it's to me, I find like like starting new chats gives me something that's like a little bit more concise. So like for example, here I'm just gonna do a new one. Like and then I'm gonna say when I go back to there, I'm gonna say, hey, now go to now implement step 2. We have already finished step 1. And now I'm telling it to go on to its next step and do it.
Yeah, and for context engineering, if you want, our first event was on context engineering, so we can see it if you want on our YouTube channel. The first event of the AI agent meetup.
Yeah. And there's also like, I mean, there's people coming. I still have to learn more about context engineering because there's also like spec kit that's coming out. There's a lot of tools that are coming out to help you keep your agent focused. And it's like changing every day. I mean, I think every day it is. Ha ha ha. See, it's not following my instructions. I'm gonna say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, hey, hey. You are not following the instructions in Copilot. I want you to write tests one at a time, not write a bunch of tests, then check if they pass.
Okay, even if you said that you need to follow the instruction, in that, let's follow it. Okay.
Yeah, I always I stop it and I say no, you're not following the instructions. And what I'll do too, sometimes I will revert its changes and I say, no, you can't do that. I, I feel good. I mean, it makes me feel a little good because I'm like, I'm telling it no, like because I want it to do one test at a time. As a test-driven development, we always do one test at a time. We never say we're going to do like 20 tests and then try to fix them all. No, we say, hey, you need to um, one test at a time, and then you fix the error, and then you move on to the next one.
And now he respects the TDD cycle with the first step fail. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, like I'll say yes. I'll say yes, commit,
I will add a single failing test. Okay.
then proceed. So I'm telling you, yes, you can commit your code. That was another thing I forgot to put in my thing because I'll tell it, it should be committing code like every time. And so sometimes things like this, even though I have it in my Copilot instructions file, it still doesn't do it. So you kind of, the frustrating thing is you constantly have to babysit this thing, and you have to let it like you're always telling it, hey, now this is interesting. I didn't know I had this NPC server that did that, but I did, and it's doing it. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Um, and then it'll start adding more tests. And the point of it is, it's doing it one at a time. It's not trying to do something bad. Then I can review the test and make sure that it looks the way that I want it to be.
Okay, when you said that you want to commit, he proposed to use the MCP server with Git Kraken, right?
Usually it'll it'll just call the commands. This is the first time I've seen it do this, but
Ah,
it's, like every time you use it, it'll do something. It does, it does, it, you know what? It's fine. It's like, it's learning and it's just
so
like,
fast. Yeah.
yeah, it's learning and it's doing it and yeah, and we have all of that. So, and then we can say, yeah, hello. Just like, yeah, go ahead. Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead. So I think I've demonstrated the concept because like now we're coming to the end of the hour. But the concept is like I'm constraining the AI and I'm making it do what I want it to do. I'm making it create unit tests the way that I want the unit tests to be created. I am forcing it to do it the way that I would write it myself. And I'm not, you know, so I'm not like just creating a prompt saying, go create all the unit tests and just do it. You know, I'm doing it one at a time so I can see what it's doing. I am purposely slowing it down, so that I can understand what changes it's making and not just like it's creating all this code and then I can't understand what's going on. There are times where the other way is helpful, but then you're it's like a trade-off. Like engineering is always about trade-offs and constraints, right? You're trading speed for you understanding the code. So you sacrifice your like understanding of what the AI is actually doing to try to get something done faster. But then that introduces more risk because now you don't understand the code. But maybe you have more time and you want to slow the AI down so that you can understand what it's doing and you can see what it's doing every single step of the way. So instead of like reviewing like a thousand line PR, you're only reviewing like a couple lines of code each time it's making a change, and those changes are very small, and you're realizing, okay, like these things are easy for me to understand what it's doing, and I can see that the the modifications that's doing and all of these tests that's doing, these make sense to me, and it's not they're not they those tests look fine. I do one thing, it's not following my naming standard again. Constantly you have to tell it, what are you doing? I didn't You're supposed to be following my naming standards.
And for you, can we call it test first for this for this way of generated test? Even if we follow the TDD cycle, now it's the AI that generate the test
Yes.
first and so on. And for you, can you call it always test first or not?
Yeah, because it's writing the test first. Now, there's an interesting thing that you can also do that I've also done is you write the test.
Okay.
So you write the unit test or the whatever kind of test that you want, and then you tell the AI, make this pass.
Okay. It's another way. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like, and then that test becomes the specification for the agent in and of itself. But and so that could be with a legacy code base. Now, you can either do one or two things is you can write the test, have AI write it, then you review it, then you say, okay, now make it green, make it pass. One of the things that I also really like about test-driven development, even with an AI, the AI will be so confident. I'll say, yes, it works. It works. Everything works. Um, but like one of the things that I specifically tell AI to do, I say, I want you to make sure that the right assertion failed. I don't, because the test could not fail at all. Or the test fails, but it doesn't fail for the reason that we were expecting. It fails because there
Yeah,
was a compile
right.
issue where it just did something dumb. And it says, oh yeah, the test failed. No, it didn't fail for the right reason. You have to make sure that it failed for the reason that it should have failed for, not you doing that. Now, in this case, it's just adding edge case tests, like the code already works because we're in a repo and it already works. So we don't, that's why we don't see the test failing. Um, but like those are all things. And then of course, once we do this, like I didn't get to the point, I ran out of time to do the refactoring step. But then as we get to that point, we can tell it to refactor it and we can tell it, hey, make sure all the tests are passing. And then each time we make one refactor, right, we already have a suite of unit tests that AI helped us write that we reviewed. And now we can make changes one at a time and know that we didn't break something.
Yeah. Because my point is to see if we have the same benefits when we start with a test. We see some student that it's reduce the daily stress by starting by the test, and it's we have another benefit. It's to drive the implementation because the goal is to not have the brittle test, and by starting by the test, we can ensure that the AI is not coupled with the implementation and it's coupled with the behavior,
Yes. The main thing too is like you want to know that the tests are high value. You don't want to just write, like if you tell the AI just to write tests and cover the code, it can do that all day long. It can write tests that will give you 100% code coverage. But are those tests even worth? Like, do they even do anything? Probably not. And then they become very tied to the implementation of the code. And then when you try to refactor, you get this mess of code because your tests are so coupled with your code that you can't make any changes, you can't do anything. So we want to start with a test first. It's the same thing with TDD. And to me, the TDD is just another version of a spec for the AI. You're giving the AI a spec. All we're just saying is we're instead of having it in a markdown file, we're creating code that's our living spec that the AI is going to use to implement the code. And we're using the AI to help us build the spec, and then we're using AI to build the code. So you can think of it that way, if that helps.
Yeah, I think I like this way to use the AI. I think I will try it. I start by the test and say, can you implement the rest?
Yeah. Well, I thank you. It's late and it's a Friday night, and you guys could be doing a lot of other more fun things than listening to me talk about AI and coding. So thank you
Yeah.
for having me here, and I really do appreciate it.
The demo is finished? Yeah, right? Or not?
Yes, like I mean, I don't want to take any like unless someone has a question. I'll can.
Okay. Do you use some mutation testing in your journey with AI, or it's too time consuming,
Do I use mutation testing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big like I really like .NET development, and there's no like really good mutation test frameworks right now for .NET that I've done. So I haven't done a lot of mutation testing myself, but I would like to.
Okay. So in Java, we have a PyTest, but okay. In
Yeah,
.NET,
I would like to do more mutation testing, but I haven't, I will be honest, I have not that's not like a area of strength for me is mutation testing, but mutation testing would definitely come in handy, especially if you're dealing with legacy code, because then you could go in there and you could test the invariant, the invariants, and you could test to see if your code, your tests are actually doing something.
Okay. I don't know if you have question in chat. No, I have another question.
Okay.
Yeah, it's now the AI it generate the test that we seen in the screen. If you need to make some change, uh, do you ask for the AI to make the change, or do you change manually directly in the code?
That is a good question. So it depends.
It depends.
So like I did see how if I planned that. Um, so I tried like I've challenged myself to not like I've challenged myself to make the AI do everything.
Yeah, because you need to learn, you know. Okay.
Like to make like to see how far I can push these coding tools. Like how far can I get it? Like can I prompt it so that it'll make the code the way that I would do it? Like the way that I want the code to be structured and designed. Can I prompt it into doing it that way?
Okay. And
And
you improve the instruction
yeah,
file and so on.
yeah. The other thing that I'm also not afraid of doing because with AI, if you think about it, it's so easy to generate code. I
Yeah.
just go into the commit history and I just say like this is not good enough. This is horrible and I just delete it all and I tell it do it again. And then I like learn because sometimes what will happen is you learn, like, oh, it went down this weird path. I'm like, why did you do this? And then you learn, okay, now I need to tell the AI not to do it that way, but to do it a different way. And now I'm going to give it um, like I'm going to give it like more guardrails this time around. So
Okay.
sometimes like the code gets so complicated, it's just easier just to delete it and start over. Actually, Steve Yagi, he's a big promote. He wrote the vibe coding book. I haven't read his book yet, but he posted on LinkedIn about the thought of that code. Like his argument is that code will only have a lifetime of 1 year because AI agents are making it to the point where it's cheap to write code. We don't have to keep code around. Now, I don't necessarily believe that for all code, especially for code that's very valuable in producing money. But there'll be times when we're writing code, we don't have to like you don't have to keep the code. You could just start over. You're like the AI makes it so cheap to write code. Yes, before it would take us hours and we would agonize and we're like, I don't want to remove it. I don't want to delete it. I've spent so much time. Maybe I could fix it and make it do it what
Yeah,
I want.
I understand that.
Just wipe the slate clean and start over and say, nope, this is not it. And I'm just starting over and I'm going to do it better the second time around. And don't be afraid to get rid of code, especially code that AI wrote, because
Mm.
no one really cares. Because you're not writing it, the AI is writing it. So you don't have an emotional attachment to it. So just get rid of it and start over.
Yeah,
Now,
it's too fast now to generate code, so I
yeah,
understand. But anyway, the generate code has never been the bottleneck, you know.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
I am interested in all the concept like value stream management to see
yeah.
how we can improve the whole chain, you know.
Now, this is where I would not do, where I might do it myself, is refactoring. So AI does not do a good job of refactoring code. It sucks.
Yeah.
The refactoring tools that we have in modern IDEs are so good and they do such a good job and they run and they're faster than what AI could do. You can do the refactoring yourself faster than what the AI could do. And so those cases, I will just do it myself because I know I could do it faster than what the AI would have done if it tried to refactor it. Um, Now there are NPC tools that will give those same refactoring tools to the AI, but you run into the same problem where it will ignore the tool and it will go and try to use its like its base tooling, like replacing file like the grep tool or something and diff files and all this and it's so slow. Like an example, a really easy example is like let's say there's a class that's used like 10,000 times in a code base and all you want to do is rename the class. You can use a modern refactoring tool to rename it and it's done in an instant and it's safe and it works and you could just commit the code and be done. AI will go and it will try to rename every single piece of code. It'll go through the 10,000, references and it'll go open the file, write to the file, like it'll read the file in because it has to read it and then understand it and then it'll put the file in like it's like even if it has the refactoring NPC tool, it'll still sometimes like default to that and be dumb and do it and then I'm like forget this, like I'll just do it myself and it's faster. So it depend like that's where the depend comes. Is like is it faster for you to write it or is it faster for the AI to write it? And will the AI give you what you want? Or what if you're very opinionated and you want it written in a certain way and you're like, okay, I'm just going to do it myself. And so then it'll write it the way that I want it to be written. So,
And, and just the last question, I think, what is your advice for junior? Because now, for senior, I think it will be easy to use AI because we can understand what the AI generates. But for juniors that maybe some junior doesn't know some patterns or something like that, what is your advice for juniors to be careful, with AI because we need to understand what the AI generates.
so the the biggest danger right now is with juniors using AI because they don't understand what bad code is, and they just they just accept, change. And then, well, to be honest,
Mm.
I've done it before myself. And sometimes you don't care what the code looks like. Like if you're just prototyping something or you're building like a little tool for yourself, who cares what the code looks like? You just want the tool to work and you're not, and it's just throwaway code and you don't care about it. But like we've all learned kind of the hard way on how to learn how to code. We've learned through trial and error, and we've learned through like reading and trying things and you know through others mentoring us through pair programming, all of these things we've learned over the years, and now AI kind of short circuits that and it's very dangerous. So some people like Scott Hanselman, like on his one of his YouTube series, he talked about what Microsoft's doing, and they're actually talking about having an internship for juniors to teach them all of these skills, to actually have like a formal internship for juniors. It actually becomes more imperative for the seniors to guide and direct juniors. Don't just throw them into the code, say, "Oh, here's AI, just go and, and go have fun." we as seniors have to go in and like pair with the juniors and explain to them why, like all the knowledge that we have in our heads, we have to convey it to them and explain why this isn't a good idea that the AI is doing this. Why are we stopping the AI from making this change? How to understand those things. And it'll even go to school, right? If you're in school, the best way is to learn how to code without AI. It's kind of like learning like arithmetic. We learn arithmetic before we're allowed to use a calculator. So we learn, subtraction, addition, multiplication, division. Then when we start going to more advanced mathematical concepts, then they let us use a calculator because we've already mastered the basics, and now we can go on to the more higher level things. And so that as a junior, you do need to learn how to use the AI tools. That is true. But you also need to spend time learning how to code without them and not be dependent on AI tools to do everything.
I'm totally agree. And we have some tools like learning hours in some teams. If you want try it, Andy and David in your team, you can try learning hours to have some kata or to develop some skills in your team. You can see some man coach kata and so on. And I think the biggest issue with AI is that intrinsically it reduces interactions with the team, because for the junior it's more easy to ask to the AI agents than your colleagues, because
Mhm.
you can avoid human interaction and human issue so easily. So it is a trap. Yeah.
Yeah. What the
Okay.
name of it? What were you saying? The name of which tool? I've I said a lot of things.
Learning hours.
Yeah, he said, what's the name of the tool?
No, learning hours is just a practice in your team to you organize some meeting
Oh
to
yeah.
to be able to refactor and learn refactoring and so on. And you can see the site. The site is Sunman Coach, I think. Uh, oh, I will share it. I think in the YouTube channel. Yeah. So I think you will end the meeting because it's more than 1 hour.
Yeah.
Thank you
Well,
so
thank you.
much, Michael. It and very interesting topics, and thank you to for sharing the journey with us.
Yeah.
Thanks for your our attendees, and like I said, I will share all the video on our YouTube channel. So
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.